The Baseball Writers Association of America have deemed 2 Seattle Mariners as finalists for the regular season accolades. We got Rookie of the Year, Manager of the Year, Cy Young, and MVP coming right at you. We're going to break them all down and who we got winning. First award we're going to break down is the Rookie of the Year because that was the first one being announced on the 14th of November. We have Steven Kwan, Julio Rodriguez, and Adley Rutschman as our finalists here. And of course, Julio Rodriguez is going to win this. Maybe not by a landslide. People are saying it's a lot closer than it is, but Julio Rodriguez has taken this home without a doubt, in my head. He's been winning so many other Rookie of the Year honors. It would be silly for the voters for the BBWAA or whatever, the blah. But Steven Kwan, Guardians, leadoff hitter primarily, little slap hitter kind of guy. Won a Gold Glove. Absolutely phenomenal out there in left field for the Guardians this season. Set the table for them. Did a lot offensively. Obviously great defensive player as well. Stole 19 bags. Helped this Guardians team remain stable, I feel like, at the top of that lineup. Making good at bats. Not striking out a lot, actually had more walks than strikeouts all year, which is absolutely incredible. Steven Kwan had a phenomenal year, definitely deserves a nod here in the final 3, but I do not think he has enough to edge out Julio Rodriguez. Now we look at Adley. Adley's going to have the least amount of games played here because he did not start the season on the Major League roster. He was still in the minors to start off this year, but in 113 games, had a 254 average, a 362 OBP, a 445 slugging, and a 128 OPS plus. A little bit higher than Steven Kwan, who was at 124, but that largely is in part because likely the home runs and a little bit extra base hits. He actually had 35 doubles out of 101 of his hits, so basically over a third of his hits were doubles, which is actually really impressive. Had a 5.2 B WAR at the catching position, so came up, missed, 50 games and still was able to put out those type of numbers. Adley Rutschman, again, deserves the nod here. But it's all about Julio, right? He's that guy. In 2022, he played 132 games, had 145 hits, 25 doubles, 3 triples, 28 home runs, 75 RBIs, 25 stolen bases, 284 batting average with a 345 OBP, 509 slugging, and a 147 OPS plus. He was also an all-star. Helped the Mariners make the playoffs. He was the MVP of this team the entire year. Don't get me wrong, Steven Kwan also helped his team make the playoffs. Adley Rutschman did a lot to help continue the surge that the Baltimore Orioles had in the second half of this season. But to me, Julio Rodriguez is the far and clear winner for the Rookie of the Year. And remember, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Colty, take us away with Manager of the Year.
As Mariners fans, we all know just how much Scott Servais meant to the Seattle Mariners this year. Love him or hate him, and if you hate him, you're just wrong. Scott Servais is in the running for Manager of the Year with Orioles' Brandon Hyde and the Cleveland Guardians' Terry Francona. Now, the thing with Scott is, my goodness, this man is just fantastic.
We need to add another one.
He led the Mariners to their second straight 90-win season, the first time they made the playoffs in 20 years, and Scott is just a player's manager. Everybody on the team loves Scott. And I understand that both Terry Francona and Brandon Hyde have a little bit of an argument here as to why they should win it. First and foremost, we can look at Terry Francona. Tito went 92-70 with the Cleveland Guardians this year. Terry Francona, been around for a very long time. He is a very well-respected manager in baseball. But the Guardians went 92-70, won 2 more games than the Mariners, but they were playing in one of the weakest divisions in all of baseball. And they were also knocked out in the division series, just like the Mariners were. With that being said, the Guardians had the youngest team in all of baseball. Now, of course, that is not an easy thing to do. Take the youngest team in all of baseball, take them to the top and to the playoffs. But, I mean, let's be honest. I think that making the playoffs for the first time in 20 years says a little bit more about Scott Servais than it does about Terry Francona. I have a lot of respect for Brandon Hyde and what they did in Baltimore this year. However, Brandon Hyde's the only manager out of these 3 that didn't make the playoffs. He went 83-79 with the Baltimore Orioles, took 4th in the division. I understand that the Baltimore Orioles probably overperformed compared to what everybody thought they were going to do, but they still took 4th in the division and missed the playoffs. I like Brandon Hyde. I think he's a great manager, but I don't think he got the team where they needed to go. And especially even after losing Trey Mancini and a couple other players from the Orioles, Brandon Hyde did a great job managing that team and showing the city of Baltimore that these guys are here to play no matter how the odds are stacked against them. I think that Brandon Hyde has a great case. I think all 3 of these managers have a great case. And honestly, I think this might be, of all of the things we're talking about, the most highly contested award in all of baseball this year. The American League Cy Young is probably the second most contested of all the different awards in MLB this year, and the finalists for the American League Cy Young is Alek Manoah, Dylan Cease, and Justin Verlander. In 2022, Alek Manoah had a 2.24 ERA in 31 starts over nearly 200 innings pitched. He struck out 180 batters with an ERA plus of 174. He was an all-star this year at the age of 24. The Mariners know just how good Alek Manoah was against them this year. Although they did take him out in the playoffs, Alek Manoah at the age of 24 is setting up to be one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. I think that Manoah himself probably deserves it any other year. I think all three of these pitchers deserve a Cy Young. If I'm being completely transparent with you, all three of them were so good. Dylan Cease pitched in his age 26 season for the Chicago White Sox this year, and he went 14-8 with a 2.2 ERA in 184 innings pitched. He struck out 227 batters in those innings pitched with an ERA plus of 180, a little bit higher than Alek Manoah's. Of course, the White Sox did not make it to the playoffs this year, but Dylan Cease gave them every single chance that he possibly could have. Cease was striking out 11.1 per 9, down about a full strikeout from last year when he had a 12.3 per 9, although last year he only had an ERA plus of 112 instead of 180. For a team with high expectations to make the playoffs this year, Dylan Cease was there to lead them to the promised land. Unfortunately for the White Sox, everything fell apart, and obviously we know what was going on with Tony La Russa, and I just think that Dylan Cease is so good. Dylan Cease in his own right absolutely deserves to win an American League Cy Young, but not as much as this guy. Unfortunately, as Mariners fans, we know Justin Verlander all too well. He went 18-4 in his age 39 season coming back from Tommy John surgery. He put up a 1.75 ERA, 175 innings pitched. He struck out 185 batters, so his strikeouts were a little down from his career norms. And he had an ERA plus of 220, the only one of these three pitchers that had an ERA plus over 200. His whip was .667. He had a strikeouts per 9 of 10.5. He was an all-star. I'm just saying, Justin Verlander is going to win the Cy Young this year. He's a future Hall of Famer. And again, even though the Mariners know him all too well, they saw Justin Verlander time in and time out. And other than the game in the playoffs where the Mariners actually stacked up pretty well against him, it seemed like they were never missing Justin Verlander. Verlander has and is still one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. He is going to be a free agent this year. And I think that you could not put up a better season than he just did, except for maybe Aaron Judge. You can't put up a better season than he just did in your walk year of your contract. Even with him at age 39, I still think we're going to see him get a multi-year contract because he just proved that, hey, I can still do this, and I can still do this at an incredibly high level.
When I started doing my research for the MVP portion of this video, I saw something pretty peculiar in Yordan Alvarez's stats. He did not have as many games played as I thought he would have at the end of the season. And then I remembered a quick Google search would help me out. And that's where I found that Yordan Alvarez was on the injured list at some point this year. Yordan, you had a great season. You likely could win an MVP in the future because you're going to continue to be a great hitter. You won the World Series, so congratulations to you on a phenomenal season and a World Series ring. However, this is a two-horse race between Shohei Otani and Aaron Judge. Now we're going to take a look at Shohei Otani first. Otani was the MVP last season in 2021, rightfully so. 46 home runs, 100 RBIs, and his pitching stats were also just absolutely insane. Shohei Otani, he took 2021 and he built upon it. He did not have as great of a season as a hitter, 34 home runs and 95 RBIs compared to the 46 and 100 in the year before. However, dude was still great. A 273, 356, 519 slash with a 145 OPS plus. Shohei Otani was still a top 5 hitter in all of MLB, in my opinion. Absolute threat every single time he goes up there, and you know he's going to hit an absolute piss missile if you miss in the wrong spot. But you can't only look at his hitting. You got to take a look at his pitching stats as well. In 2021, where he won his MVP, he had a 3.18 ERA over 130 innings. He struck 156 batters, had a whip of 1.090 with an ERA plus of 141. If you thought that was good, talk about 2022 with a 2.33 ERA over 28 starts, 5 more starts than he made last year, 166 innings, 36 more innings. He struck out 219 batters over 166 innings. He had a 11.9 strikeouts per 9, guys. He brought up his ERA plus 31 total points for a 172 ERA plus. This is never going to be done ever again, except for him maybe in 2023. But this is remarkable. This is incredible. How do you not give him the MVP? And I'll tell you how you don't. Because you have a guy whose name is Aaron Judge, who in 157 games had 62 home runs, 131 RBIs, with a 311 batting average, a 425 OBP, a 686 slugging, a 1,101 OPS, with a 211 OPS plus. He led the league in home runs, RBIs, walks, everything. Like, guys, Aaron Judge, if it was not for Aaron Judge breaking an MLB record, an American League long-standing MLB record since Roger Maris, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because it would go to Shohei Otani. This is where the conversation starts. You take a look at Aaron Judge's season, how it's likely not going to happen again for a very, very long time, and you think about the history. You think about everything weighted into one, the culmination of this season, what it means for Aaron Judge, what it means for baseball, and I got to give him the MVP. He was the most valuable player to the Yankees, a team that made the playoffs. Shohei Otani, if the Angels didn't have him, yeah, they'd probably win like 30 games. But Aaron Judge was the backbone for this Yankees team. The Yankees without Aaron Judge definitely would not have had nearly as a successful season. His B-WAR is 10.6, which is 1 point higher than Shohei Otani's. He played great defensively across multiple spots in the outfield. He was in center field for most of the time when Aaron Hicks was not, doing good at all. But Aaron Judge, he did enough for me to outlast Shohei Otani in this MVP race. Don't worry, Shohei's coming back next year and he's probably going to win it then. Speaking of Shohei, what would a hypothetical trade to the Seattle Mariners look like for Shohei Otani? Again, thank you guys for watching this one, and go Mariners.